Hello, it's Robbie Gold of the Chicago Bears, and you're watching TAPED with Rabbi Doug.
We're going to see Rabbi Doug. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. We're going to see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're going to see Rabbi Doug.
Oh, everybody talk about Doug.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. Glad you could be with us today. My guest on today's show is Jack Berger, Middle East commentator. Jack, welcome to the show. Author, activist, you are the man. Jack is a regular writer for the Chicago Jewish News as well as other periodicals. He is an expert on the Middle East, and as such, we have him here today. And Jack, you are going to tell us a little bit about why are we in such a confusing time on how to handle terrorism in the Middle East.
Well, it's very problematic. It seems that certainly after September 11th, the United States began to understand terrorism. And for whatever reasons, the Israeli governments that have been going over the past 7 or 8 years really haven't faced up to what the terrorism really is. For a long time, I think they were believing that there could be peaceful coexistence. But after 1993 in the White House photo op, shortly thereafter, Arafat began speaking in various forums in Arabic about this being the first step to the elimination of Israel. That, to me, doesn't mean peace. And unfortunately, too many people were stepping over the dead Jews at Machane Yehuda or in Jerusalem, or the first suicide bombing was actually on April 6, 1994, in Afula. So whether it was Afula or Hadera, they overlooked the speeches of incitement, and they looked over what was actually happening right in front of their noses.
The people of Israel elected Benjamin Netanyahu as their prime minister, thinking that he was going to make a difference. Then they elected Barak, and they thought he was going to make a difference. Yet it seems like both of them, although dynamic as they were, both seem to bow to political pressure. Sharon seems to, at the current time, be in some way bowing to political pressure, but taking that step over that little hill beyond what the others were able to do. Why is Sharon able to do that, and why isn't he able to take that final step which will eliminate our problems or at least make them much less than they are?
As much as some of us were very disappointed in Bibi, his 3 years, and it was 3 years, not 18 months like Barak, had the fewest number of casualties in Israel. He was very much influenced by Clinton, and in fact, unfortunately, Clinton threatened him many times with cutting off aid, which was very, very difficult for the Israelis to swallow. People talk about the fact that Barak won in a landslide. That landslide was less than 2% of the Jewish vote in Israel. Barak was a fiasco, and now it seems, unfortunately, although Sharon has been somewhat stronger, he's been hampered by the fact that he has 2 leftists in his main cabinet. I mean, Shimon Peres is probably one, he should be put up on trial for being absolutely wrong on this Oslo thing, and Ben Elazar is basically Sharon's other side from the Labor government. Why he should be in the government is absolutely beyond me.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's say Rabin was not assassinated, unfortunately, a terrible event. And let's say that the Oslo Peace Accords had continued on in the tradition of Rabin at that time, and they had taken place. What would you say would be happening right now as an expert on the Middle East?
Exactly what's happening now, because what I think people forget is in 1996, and I looked at my records before this, there was 1 suicide bombing in 1994 on April 6th in Afula. There were 2 suicide bombings in 1995. There were 6 suicide bombings in 1996 under Rabin. The 2 worst were in Jerusalem on successive weekends. Rabin was absolutely pathetic. He did not do anything to save or to protect the Jews, and in fact he incited the fact that he was only the prime minister in his famous speech that I'm only the prime minister of 97%, basically saying that all the settlers or all the citizens of Israel who live in our biblical homeland were not citizens who would be secure and he would not protect them. I find that a little despicable.
Mr. Rabin Alav Shalom had a different view than most of us do today. And certainly I think that those people who are big Rabin supporters have changed their views as of what's going on right now. We know that history and Arafat and his speeches are different in English than they are in Arabic. The incitement in Arabic compared to the public displays that he's made in English have certainly been opposite of each other. What can we do? You told me off the air something. I hope you'll tell it to our viewers. What do you think they could do to stop suicide bombers from coming out and making the decision to give up their lives to try and kill Jews?
Well, it's very, very simple. Last November, I had a meeting in East Jerusalem with a number of Arabs who hate Arafat, who hate what he's doing to the Palestinian Arab people, and they could care less about a state. What they want is a normal society, and right now it's an abnormal society. But what they told me is, since these suicide bombers are so happy and their families are so proud of them, that after the suicide bombers have their videotapes and they know the names of the suicide bombers, they should go after the families and kill the families. Not demolish their houses, kill the families. It would take one or two of those, and then it would stop. As I mentioned to you off the air, Daniel Pearl, when they wanted to find out, they found out who the perpetrator was. The Pakistani army said, we have your sister, your mother, your brother, and your father, and if in 24 hours you do not come out, we will kill them. And within 24 hours, the perpetrator came out.
Amazing.
We're dealing not with Western laws, we're dealing with the laws of a very rough neighborhood, and the Arabic way of doing things, or the Muslim way of doing things, is very simple.
Well, I think the best way for people to understand what has been going on is to see it firsthand. So Jack and I are going to take you right now to Israel, to Oslo Revisited, and we'll be back.
As the Middle East crisis makes headlines in the United States, violent images dominate the news. But as we consider who's responsible for the violence, disturbing evidence exists Americans are getting only a part of the story. As you'll see in this report, while talking peace for the cameras of foreign news organizations, PLO chief Yasser Arafat says very different things to Palestinian audiences. Behind an Arab language barrier, Arafat and his PLO-controlled television deliver a message not seen in America.
Enough of blood and tears. Enough.
Our desire to win the peace jackpot grew out of what we had hoped was a revolutionary change in the PLO. Arafat was going to renounce violence and discipline violators.
שני מחבלים, חברי ארגון החמאס מעזה, פורצים לפתע לרובע הבילויים, נחלת שבעה במרכז ירושלים, תוך שהם יורים מאות כדורים לכל עבר.
We dreamed peace was possible because Arafat said he would contain Hamas. Instead of stopping terrorism, Arafat gave it a green light.
أن نستمر في هذا الجهاد الطويل والجهاد الصعب.
הבוקר ב-9:20 שוב היכה הטרור, צומת בית ליד. כבכל יום ראשון בבוקר ממתינים כאן בתחנות ההסעה עשרות חיילים.
מצד אחד הרשות הפלסטינית, ערפאת אומר, המדיניות שלי איננה פיגועים, אני נגד פיגועים. מצד שני הוא מאפשר, הנה פה בקלקיליה, הצגות כאלה בהצהרות של חמאס, שבהם מה שאנחנו נראה זה מין שחזור של פיגוע באוטובוס. זאת אומרת, הדברים האלה מתנהלים כל הזמן בעת ובעונה אחת.
שוב פעל כאן מחבל מתאבד, ועל פי גרסה לא רשמית, צעיר בן 24, הלומד הנדסה באוניברסיטת ביר זית.
זה כנראה מקום הפיצוץ, זה המקום שבו עמד כנראה המחבל המתאבד. אנחנו לא רואים כאן שרידים של מה שיכולה להיות מכונית תופת, ולכן ההנחה היא שזה מחבל.
חוב הומה במיוחד בשעה הזאת. נמסר על 4 הרוגים, אולי יותר.
ואני בقول هذا الكلام في ذكرى هؤلاء الشهداء الأبطال العظام أبو إياد وأبو الهول وأبو محمد وقبلهم أبو جهاد وقبلهم يحيى عياش وبعدهم يحيى عياش.
الآن الأرض مقابل السلام، الأرض مقابل السلام، مش الأمن مقابل السلام، مش الأمن مقابل السلام.
יש לך ימים שלמים שבהם אזורים שאתה רגיל לראות התפרעויות שקטים לגמרי. מה שקורה זה שלפי תכנון ותזמון מוכן מראש, ואי אפשר לקרוא את המצב אחרת. פשוט אי אפשר. הם יוצאים לנקודות חיכוך נבחרות ומייצרים את העימות עם הצבא. ראית מה קרה ברצועת עזה? ברגע שצה"ל שינה את הטופוגרפיה המיידית שסביב נצרים חדלה להיות מוקד, העבירו אותו לאן? לכפר דרום.
אוטובוס הילדים שיצא ב7:45 בבוקר מכפר דרום, המטען פגז ארטילרי 155 מילימטר. ברור שהאנשים שביצעו את הפיגוע הזה, אנשי פתח תנזים, שמו להם למטרה לפגוע באוטובוס הילדים של כפר דרום. זה לא מטרה מקרית, הם המתינו. לפני כן הייתה שם פתיחת ציר של צה"ל, כאשר הם לא הפעילו את המטען לעברה, אלא חיכו לאוטובוס הילדים.
When he described the Fatah and Hamas as 2 wings of the same bird, we looked the other way. When he told us he would end the conflict peacefully, we strained to believe him.
يا اخواني اذا كان في واحد فيكم تعبان او في واحده فيكم تعبانه تروح تقعد في بيتها وتبعث لاولادها وتبعث لاولادها.
Parte de los palestinos. Y también me gustaría saber que me explicara por qué Al-Fatah entrena a niños para que salgan con armas a la calle, poniendo en riesgo clarísimamente sus vidas. Gracias.
¿Estabas con ellos? Estabas tú con ellos. Dame una prueba de que tú lo que dices es verdad, es cierto. Tú me preguntas una pregunta
où les enfants de 7 à 16 ans apprennent à faire la guerre. Leur moment favori, monter et démonter une Kalachnikov. Devenir un guerrier pour de vrai, pour quelques instants seulement.
explica como adoram as armas e como aprendem rapidamente. Aqui ensinam-nos a caçar.
Ici, nous apprenons à chasser les ennemis.
It looks good, but the nightmares return.
ילדים שם מתחנכים על שנאה.
שמה אומרים ספציפית?
האם לא ברור לנו למה עלינו להילחם ולהרוג את היהודים ולגרש אותם ממדינתנו? חייבים לבצע ג'יהאד. בכל ארצנו תשוחרר.
אבל זה לא של משרד החינוך הפלסטיני.
זה של משרד החינוך הפלסטיני.
משרד החינוך הפלסטיני.
نصنع تاريخنا ما نصنعوش بالكلمة ولا بالصورة ولا بالكتاب ولكن نصنعه بالحجر الفلسطيني.
רחמנות, זעק חייל המילואים שמואל מאירי לעבר עשרות הצעירים שסקלו אותו באכזריות. מאירי בן 41.
radio version of Sesame Street.
إذا احتفت على باب القدس أصبحت فدائيا بزي مقاتلي وشكرا. برافو. وكل عروبتي للثأر تحرير تدعوني. وصوت مؤذن الأقصى لعمرك أني أرى مصرعي ولكن أخذ إليه الخطى.
تقولي إن البر وإن البحر هادي قرب يومك يا محتل وجي نصفي لحسابي واحسبنا ما منه خلاص بالحجارة والرصاص.
لعمرك إني أرى مصرعي ولكني أسرع إليه الخطى. لعمرك هذا ممات الرجال.
وناجي لما استشهد احنا قبلنا بالافراح وقلت لامه زغرتي ناجي بطل ما تبكي عليه ولا تبكي على بطل زي هذا.
أولادي يا بلادي في المجموعة الانتحارية.
Arafat's pretty words fed the fantasy of peace. Instead of moving step by step to end this conflict, we walked right into Arafat's step-by-step plan.
احنا اتخذنا القرار بأن نبدأ تحرير الوطن خطوة.
فلسطين للفلسطينيين ونقول حق العودة.
نجد أي شيء للآثار العبرية في عرب
ولا نجد
ولا نجد لسبب بسيط وهم أن لم يكونوا هناك إطلاقا.
لا علاقة بيهود اليوم بكل ادعاءاتهم بيهود الأمس القدامى.
فقد أتيت عماه تدريبي على الرشاش العودة وقد دربت أصحابي من الأطفال والصبيان وأقسمنا سنسأل من أعادينا لقتلانا وجرحانا.
كل الأرض فلسطين. اتفاقيات غزة والضفة الغربية فلن ننسى حيفا وعكا والجليل ويافا والمثلث والنقب وغير ذلك من مدننا وقرانا وما هي إلا مسألة وقت.
באוניברסיטת ביר זית התכנס היום פאנל שכותרתו המשך האינתיפאדה. בנוכחים חבר הכנסת מוחמד ברכה מחד"ש, לצידם של מרואן ברגותי מפתח, חסן יוסף מנהיג בולט של חמאס ואבו עלי מוסטפא מהחזית העממית.
نحن نحيي ونثمن هذه الانتفاضة. هي للانتفاضة التي أعادت رسم الخارطة التاريخية الحقيقية لفلسطين من النهر إلى البحر حيث تعانق شعبنا كله.
نعم إننا نتضامن مع الحدث، نتضامن مع انتفاضة شعبنا الفلسطيني.
To Jerusalem, the capital of our independent Palestinian state. To accept or not to accept, let him go to hell.
فهذا هو شأن اليهود، فلا ترحموا اليهود في أي موقع كان وفي أي موطن. قاتلوهم أينما كنتم، حيثما ثقفتموهم فاقتلوهم أينما تكونوا.
שני מחבלים, חברי ארגון החמאס מעזה, פורצים לפתע לרובע הבילויים, נחלת שבעה במרכז ירושלים.
ברור שהאנשים שביצעו את הפיגוע הזה, אנשי פתח תנזים, שמו להם למטרה לפגוע באוטובוס הילדים של כפר דרום.
מתחנכים על שנאה.
واكثرنا سنسأل من أعادينا.
אוסלו מאפשרת לנו להיות שכנים הגונים במקום אויבים מושבעים, לחיות בכבוד הדדי.
لو وصلنا إلى الطريق المسدود نعود إلى النضال والكفاح كما كافحنا 40 سنة أو ما يزيد، ولكن هذه المرة ب30,000 جندي فلسطيني مسلح.
As the United States considers its path in the Middle East, the question is, which is real? Arafat's promises of peace or his demands for destruction? While America decides, Palestinians appear to have made up their minds.
ابن فلسطين أبدا ما بالين قرآن بيمينه بشمالي سكين.
Welcome back to Taped with Rabbi Doug. I'm here with Jack Berger. Once again, Jack, thank you for being on the show today. And Jack is a Middle East analyst and a writer and activist. And after watching a video like that, how can anybody ever trust a guy like Arafat ever again?
Well, they can't. And they shouldn't have been trusting him from the get-go. I mean, some of us actually believed the first year or so that something would be good, but certainly after the first suicide bombings, after the incitement, people had to come to a certain reality. And right now, the reality is that he's built a very, very bad society, a corrupt society, a malignant society. The line that I liked the most in that tape was, "We will create our own history," which is what they've actually done. The whole idea of a Palestinian land. When was it a Palestinian land? For 400 years it was under the Ottoman Turks. After the First World War, it became part of the British Mandate. The West Bank was Jordanian territory. Gaza was Egyptian territory. When was it ever a Palestinian?
That's what Mr. Netanyahu said when he spoke in Chicago a few months ago.
I have a better writer. Rashid Khalidi, the apologist from the University of Chicago, wrote a wonderful paper about the Peasants' Revolt, where he absolutely says exactly what Netanyahu said and what I'm saying now. There was never an ownership of the land. The only time that the Arabs started to come back was when, as Dennis Miller says, when the Israelis started growing oranges the size of basketballs, all of a sudden the Palestinian people came back to their land. It's total nonsense. And I think people really have to understand the history if they want to have a fair viewing of what's going on. But a lot of people don't want a fair viewing. What they want is a certain amount of propaganda. And when you take a look at all the Arab land, and you take a look at how small Israel is, it's almost obscene that the smallest country in the Middle East, created after the First World War, is being asked to give up land to another Arab state. It's ridiculous. It's nonsensical. And what state are we going to get? Another corrupt, terrorist, intolerant Arab state.
You know, one of the things that I think is so amazing, after World War II, you know, it's taken already a generation of people to sort of look away from Nazism and from the hate that was there, and it's still internal. The neo-Nazism in Germany right now is at a higher number than it's ever been before. The hate has gone from generation to generation. The hate that's placed in these kids in the territories, in Judea and Samaria, in the Arab towns, the hate that's placed in them, I mean, we're talking another generation or two generations of peace before that hate even dissipates, if there was peace, which isn't coming. So what what do we do? What do we do?
Well, we have to no longer be shmatis. If we want to be shmati Jews, we can go back to the ghettos that they're trying to build by coming in with these big fences. You give them a choice. This was told to me by an Arab. He says, you give the Arab people who were living there a choice. You can live in the land with your own autonomous towns, municipalities, etc. They don't care about the land. What they want is a good lifestyle. They want their children to have a better life. As far as voting, none of the other Arab countries have voting. Can you imagine voting in Saudi Arabia? What an outrageous thing. Did they vote for the king in Jordan? Did they vote really for Mubarak, one of the most corrupt, despicable leaders in the Middle East? Did they vote for Saddam Hussein? Most of the Arabs that I talk to in East Jerusalem understand it has nothing to do with land. They didn't care about the land before. They don't care about it now. And would the world of the Arab, everyday Arab in Israel or in Judea Samaria be changed if all of a sudden they had a state? Of course not. It's nonsense.
In 30 seconds, because we're running out of time, tell us, what can we as American Jews and supporters of Israel do right now?
We have to make sure that our elected representatives are looking toward a secure Israel. And quite frankly, the people who have been leading the charge have been the Christians. With Tom DeLay and Dick Armey and Brownback and Bill Frist have all been up front. And in fact, I have to give both Tom DeLay and Dick Armey a tremendous sense of gratitude, because it was Dick Armey who came out with what some thought was an outrageous statement, that if the Palestinians can't live in peace with Israel, maybe they should be kicked out of the West Bank. I would love to have a Jewish leader say that, other than myself, but I don't consider myself a leader. I just want to see a safe, secure Israel, and we have to do what might be difficult in the short run, but it took 20 years for the United States to thank Menachem Begin for going and bombing the reactors in Osirak.
Right.
He was defamed for it, and yet if we do what's right for the Jewish people, the rest will follow.
Great. I want to thank you, Jack Berger, for being on the show today. We're going to keep reading your articles and keep up with you in the Chicago Jewish News. I want to thank you, all our viewers, for being with us. Remember, we're on every week at this time, so hope to see you next time here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.